and welcome back to part 2 of ranking every commander I've ever built around. If you missed part 1, be sure to check that out for an overview of what this series is about, and my criteria for ranking these commanders. This is a pretty casual overview, with a lot of my thoughts and opinions being given in real time. As a reminder, these rankings are based on my own preferences and enjoyment of these legends. If you enjoy this, or have built around any of the commanders I talk about today, let me know about your own personal experience with them. With all that out of the way, let's check out the next batch of legends, starting with Ephara, God of the Polis. I'm surprised that I don't see more of the Theros gods being played as commanders. I know they've been out for a while, but I still think they're very good even today. The indestructible and the fact that a lot of the times they aren't even a creature makes them very hard to get rid of. And they're just sitting there for most of the game, just providing you this incremental value on most occasions. And Ephara's not an exception to that at all. Her ability to draw you a card each turn if you have some kind of blink engine online is very good. I've had a friend build a very good list of this, and yeah, it just takes over the game mid to late if she sticks around. And everyone's seen Azorius Blink go off, and it's a good archetype. I think she's a better subtle pick for Blink as opposed to like a Brago or that one dude with background, the Abdel guy who can blink everything and then gives you a bunch of 1/1s based on what he's blinked. He's very good. I think Ephara is better for flying under the radar if you want to run a blink strategy. I ran her for a game or two, I think being inspired by my buddy when I saw his list. And while she was fun and keeps your hand full with cards, I kind of realized I wasn't super into blink strategies and wasn't a strategy that I wanted to really invest in and get more playtime with. So I think I'd put her at C. Another Theros god, Erebos. Now this guy I'll run. I actually have him built as a legend. Or in front of his own deck, excuse me. He's very, very good. That opponents can't gain life clause is actually more relevant than you would think it is. And he has an outlet for all, if you're playing big black strategy, he has an outlet for you to draw more cards. And yeah, I liked him a lot. He's helmed a couple decks of mine that I've built. I think just kind of generic black good stuff. This recent attempt I've built him was to slow down one of my play groups who's kind of power creeping a little bit. I built him as kind of an enchantment not stacks, but discard, I guess. A lot of the discard a card at random effects, have a Turgid in there. I know I'm a monster. Just to provide pressure, I guess. Like as the deck goes, as the opponent's hand size starts to dwindle, they have less options, and then there's all these other effects that are draining you for life when you discard a card, or I'm benefiting when they discard a card. As you can imagine, I've played a game or two with the deck. I don't know if it's what I want to be doing with mono black right now. While I still have it built, I don't think it's gonna stick around for too long, especially when I can find a different mono black direction to take and kind of fix that itch. So as a creature, I really like him. The strategy I'm running right now, I'm not as big of a fan of, so I'm going to put him in B. Because I think I think I'll go a different direction for mono black in general once I get there. But I've had some good times with Erebos, and he certainly goes in a lot of the 99 for mono black lists out there. So check him out if you haven't. I remember being really excited for this first cycle of Elder Dinosaurs. I think they were all pretty cool. Maybe not the mono black one was a little weird. Better in the 99. But as Legends, this first cycle was pretty cool. And Etali is very splashy. It can provide a lot of value. When I built him, he did kind of the thing, you're loading it up with extra combats, and if he's not addressed right away, he pretty much takes over. I think he's a fun commander, very splashy. I think he's a fun commander, especially if you're first getting into Magic. This would be a cool deck to hand somebody just getting into Commander and just watching the craziness happen. It's probably not the strat I'm gravitating toward nowadays, but at the time I remember having fun with him. I'd probably put him at B. Fun in the 99. That's the other thing about some of these splashy creatures is people know they're coming, and so they can hold up a swords to plowshares. And unless you have a bolt bend or a what's that called? Deflecting swat, something of that nature, odds are they'll have an answer ready before you can get the value off of Etali. Ezuri. So this Ezuri was from the second round of Commander Precons that I ever got to, be it while I was playing Magic. It was the second round of Precons I got to witness come out. And I remember probably being the most pumped for Ezuri initially, just because I'd played around with the mono green version of him before this, and I thought the fact that he was now a Phyrexian was really cool, and his ability seemed really interesting too. All these power 2 or less was kind of an interesting restriction, and then just grow him up. And yeah, he was fun. I had fun playing him in the Precon, and I've built a couple decks from scratch around him. And there's some cool directions you can go with him. I don't know how he stands as a commander today. He might be a bit slow. I know experience counters are kind of maybe not hot, but a debated topic in the commander community, just since they're so hard to interact with. I did run a list, I remember, with Ezuri and Sage of Hours, the one creature that if you get 5 1/1 counters on him and you remove those counters, you gotta take an extra turn. And so, yeah, if you got up to 5 experience counters and had a Sage of Hours out, it was just infinite turns and pretty easy to set up. But once you do it once or twice, it's like, okay, you did the thing. And that was a higher power list at the time, but I think he's still worth building around and trying out today. I'd probably give him a B. I don't think I'll revisit him soon. The 1/1 counter direction, especially in Simic, that's not what I want to be doing. And then Ezuri before he went all Phyrexian. And this guy's just straight up elves. Yeah, when I built him, it was just an elf ball deck, and it was good. He's a good outlet, keeps your elves around, and he's a finisher all wrapped up one, so very efficient. If I built elves, I think there's other color combinations that are more interesting, like Abomination of Llanowar, I think is really cool for Golgari elves. I think I'd want another color in there if I did elves again, but he certainly goes in the 99 of those decks. I might put him at D. He's still a good commander, but it's pretty straightforward of what he's doing. And ooh, Feldon. Feldon is the commander I have had an iteration of for probably the longest. I have him currently built. I built him. I first got him back in the Mono Red Precon, Duretti's Precon. He was the backup commander for that. Yeah, super cool. I think, and my appreciation for him really grew after I fell in love with graveyard strategies, and just his ability being really unique and getting to play with the graveyard and also having artifact synergies in there. Just really cool. And his story especially. I'm not a lore master of Magic by any means, but he has a short story, I'm pretty sure it's still online, that goes into his backstory, him and his wife, and after he loses his wife, his journey to... He basically, like, trains in all the different colors of Magic to find a way to find closure with his wife. Like, he's trying to kind of bring her back to him. Like in the flavor text, she will come back to me. He's trying to find a way to bring her back, and finally, throughout that journey, he kind of finds peace and figures out a way to harness the correct magic to bring her back for long enough to say goodbye. And it's a really beautiful story, and his mechanic, like his ability, like reflects that story so well. It's just, it's so good. And the artwork's awesome too. So yeah, I've built Feldon probably 5 or 6 different ways. I feel like I redraft him every year or so just to like see what new toys or directions I want to take him. I've done goblin lists with him. I've done all-in bombs in the graveyard. I've done more mid-range stuff that isn't as reliant on him, because the deck is pretty soft too if Feldon gets removed a lot, just because Red doesn't have a ton of ways to reanimate things otherwise. Yeah, he's... I just love him so much. He's so much fun. The version I have of him right now is a random grab bag of monsters. I've basically pulled all the big red creatures and colorless artifact creatures in my collection and just have a big stack of them. And before every game, I have, I think, 11 or 12 card slots left empty in the deck list. So I'll pull 12 monsters randomly from that stack and put them in the deck, and that's the package I'm using. So it's good to keep the experience fresh, so I'm not just grabbing the same monsters that I know are good. I want to shout out a piece of tech for Feldon, because I don't see enough people run it in their lists. It's called Fires of Invention. It's an artifact from Eldraine, the first Eldraine, I think. Or artifact, sorry, excuse me, enchantment. This is a house in Feldon. It seems very restrictive, but Feldon isn't a deck that you're casting spells super often on other people's turns. If anything, you're activating his ability on other people's turns or other abilities of your creatures. And this lets you leave up mana to do that, because the deck is pretty mana hungry, and it can get clunky if you're trying to cast Feldon and like make sure you have enough mana held up to activate him that turn before he gets removed, so you get some value off of him. So this really helps alleviate some of that clunkiness. It comes down on turn 3, turn 4, depending on what you've ramped, and it lets you cast Feldon for free, theoretically, and then if you have a Haste Enabler, you'll probably have lands open to activate his ability that same turn. And I just played a game recently with my playgroup when this came down early, and it just did so much. Even if Feldon gets removed, it reduces the cost. His 3 normal cost, you still have to pay the commander tax, but that's big savings. And also lets you just start playing your monsters efficiently mid to late game, assuming you're making your land drops. So yeah, I've always been impressed with this card. Still a house. Would highly recommend if you are running Feldon or want to consider playing Feldon. But yeah, Feldon is easily an S. This is definitely the deck I'm known for in my play group. If people had to assign a signature deck to me, it's probably Feldon, and I'm okay with that. I love Feldon. He's awesome. Can't say enough good things about him. Frodo, and with Frodo is Sam, loyal attendant, because they're partnered. I bought this deck for my wife, the precon, and I play it, so I'm I'm counting it. I've um, I've upgraded it a little bit with some Lord of the Rings cards because I just feel like it's I just feel like it's right to keep the cards in the deck Lord of the Rings focused, which is totally fine. Uh, yeah, I think the deck is really cool. I think it's one of the stronger precons they've put out. It's really super synergistic, super flavorful. I love what it does with food. Excuse my cat; he needs attention. Uh, yeah, I really like the deck. It's fun to play. We'll probably keep it's her deck, so we'll probably keep it assembled for a while. And yeah, I'd put it at A. It's what I want to do with food. And there's other directions you can go with food. Certainly, there's a couple commanders on this list that will talk about food. Um, but yeah, I think they nailed it as far as the Hobbits go, and this was the precon I think to grab out of that cycle, and it still holds up today. I'll put Sam down here. Sam goes in A as well. Yeah, they're a fun engine off of each other too. It's just yeah, just does everything you want. Gahiji. So I had a Gahiji because I had picked up the Naya Precon with Marith as the legend leader for that one. I don't remember what I built Gahiji for. I think it was just like a generic. Oh, I was trying kind of a get my opponents to attack one another or encourage them to attack one another so they could get that buff. It was kind of a precursor to Goad, but then once Goad came along, uh, like actual devoted Goad commanders like Carter or uh, Baloth, for example, there's no reason to really play Gahiji, so I think he's just been power crept out of the format. Yeah, he gets a D. Just I don't even think I would put him in the 99 nowadays, to be honest. What do I think about Geist? He's he's probably a better 1v1 commander from a different era. I I had a friend, my original friend that got me into Magic. He had a Geist to Saint Traft deck. He had a more spiky play style. Yeah, just Voltroned up Geist, I think, and swung in, and I think I was just trying different strategies back in the day, so I built my own just to see what I thought, and it was fine. I don't think it's an egregious commander degenerate or anything. The hexproof is nice. That's a relevant keyword for sure. But I think there's more interesting things you can do nowadays in the Voltron sphere. So I'd probably put him at C, pretty neutral on Geist. Geth looks really exciting. Just like a built-in mana dump to reanimate a artifact or creature card from opponent's graveyard. I find nowadays when I put cards into my opponent's graveyards, it's usually helping them out, especially if there's more graveyard-centered decks out there. And yeah, he just takes a lot to get going. I think I built him once and didn't have a good time, and I don't even put him in the 99 really. So, uh, yeah, E tier. Galta's fun. Big, stompy, dumb commander. Comes down pretty quick. I have a friend in our play group that has killed me with this mono green monster. Uh, I've built a version of him. It's pretty straightforward. Just land Galta down as soon as you can, uh, and start smashing face with it. So it's good. You got to run your Rishkar's expertise, return the wild speakers, your greater goods, just to refill if you need to. And yeah, would recommend as a fun mono green stompy commander. Uh, mono green mono green isn't something I have lately gravitated towards. And if I go back, it probably wouldn't be this direction, but I'll certainly run Ghalta and the 99 of battle cruiser decks and big stompy decks. But Ghoulcaller Gisa. Ghoulcaller Gisa was, I think, originally introduced in the Mono Black 2014 Commander Precon as the backup commander. Same set as Feldon came out. She was my go-to zombie commander for a long time. Zombies were my favorite typal for a good chunk of time before I think vampires kind of caught my attention more. Yeah, she's good. I think she's still good if you want to play zombies. Yeah, and I don't think you have to be straight up zombies with her either. You know, it's just sacrifice another creature. So yeah, it's just a good way to profit, build a board, and if you get some untap effects with her, she can do even more on your turns. So I think she's worth still playing around. I know we have some different iterations of her nowadays, but as far as what she does, she's fun. I'd put her at B. Gisa and Geralf, they're a good time. I remember buying the Wilhelt Precon, and they were in that deck. And the Wilhelt Precon was very strong, especially for zombies. And I recall switching to Gisa and Geralf when I wanted to power the deck down a bit and have a more fair match. Yeah, they're a solid Dimir zombie leader. Gives you some good value when they enter, and then being able to cast zombies from your graveyard is solid value. So would recommend expanding zombies to include blue. Gives you some nice self-mill ability, and they've printed some pretty good blue zombies lately that really further your game plan. So would recommend Gisa and Geralf. I think there's a starter precon that they came out with a while ago, but I think you can still pick it up for pretty cheap if you're interested in Dimir zombies. I'll put them at B too. Gisela, she kind of has the same problem as Aurelia, the war leader, does. Her effect is just very, it's very game warping, and It's strong, no doubt about it. But everyone can see it in your command zone and know that it's coming, so they have to make sure they're holding on to spot removal or something if they don't want the game to end immediately. I remember playing her and thinking like, oh, like my opponents will use the double damage against each other, to their benefit, but they were so caught up in like, oh, we can only deal half damage to me that it kind of became the table versus me whenever I would try playing her. Yeah, I think she just grabs too much attention from the command zone. I don't recall having a very great time with her. Really fun creature. I had very splashy. I had a lot of fun. I built him shortly after he came out, and I imagine he's even more crazy today with all the new dinosaurs we have running around. I was kind of working with what we had available. I'm sure there was a Colossal Dreadmaw in it, in the deck, unironically, but just because I needed more dinosaurs in there. But the amount of value, if you're running 35, 40 dinosaurs, your chances of hitting several of them when Gishath hits are pretty solid, and you could run the Enrage mechanics. Just some really interesting things you could do with that. I always was sad because, Gishath has some pretty good stats, and you can only hit people a couple times before they're in danger of commander damaging them out of the game. And you're like, oh, I want the fun to continue and just keep flipping dinosaurs. So he's a very fun battle cruiser deck. The game plan's pretty much the same each game. Like, ramp up to Gishath, start smacking people, start flipping dinos. It doesn't deviate too much from that. So if you like more variety in your game plan, probably go a different direction. But if you just like battle cruiser dinosaurs, he's still an all-star for sure. I'd put him at A. I had a lot of fun with him when I played him. I wanted to vary up my game strategies though at some point, so that's why I took him apart. Gautrol Bontu. I don't have a ton of stuff to say about Gautrol Bontu. I think I was trying to set up some turns where I have a lot of tokens out and just sacrifice a lot of them at a time when Bontu came out just to refill my hand. So it was less revolving around Bontu. It was just basically a card draw spell from the command zone if I wanted it to be. I don't honestly remember too much about the list or my gameplay experience with it, so I'm just going to put him at C. I love him in the 99 for any deck that's going wide, or it doesn't even have to be creatures. It just says any other permanent. So if you're making a lot of treasure tokens or any tokens for that matter, he's a fun way to cash that in. Gonti. I thought Gonti was really cool. It kind of made me fall in love with playing with what my opponents are doing, and kind of got me on the path of like, oh, what if I could clone those creatures? I know Gonti isn't a clone strategy, but it kind of got me on the I liked the variance it brought to each game and kind of made each game a new, fresh experience. So yeah, when I built Gonti, it was get Gonti out, find ways to blink it with a Conjurer's Closet, or ways to sacrifice it and bring it back with Undying Evil effects, or those 1 mana instants that bring a creature back when it dies, just to keep using the ability over and over. So yeah, Gonti's pretty fun. The guys over at Legendary Creature Podcast, I think it's Andy. They did a series where they kind of construct their own precons for listeners, and I think Gonti was one of them. And it looked like a fun list, kind of reopened my interest for Gonti. I like what it does for games. The one tricky part is one of my play groups is on webcam, and Gonti is hard to... Resolving a Gonti effect over webcam is really tricky. So probably for that reason, I'm not looking to build Gonti in the near future. But if I ever get in a group that meets in person regularly, it'd be a strong candidate. But for right now, I think Gonti goes in B tier. Grenzo. This Grenzo came out in Conspiracy, which is one of my favorite drafting sets they've ever made. And a lot of cool legends from it too. Yeah, and has goad on it too, which is fun. When I built Grenzo, I was kind of leaning into the goad ability. I think I just built him as a goblin, kind of a leader of a goblin deck. If I built him again today, I'd probably go a different direction, but there's also more goad tools. And also being able to, having the other ability to exile a card from an opponent's library and get to play it was nice utility, especially if they weren't running a lot of creatures. So he did some cool things. I think I like him better in the 99 nowadays. I don't plan to revisit Grenzo anytime soon. And I don't recall him sticking around too long. He was kind of mainly a experiment. He was on the road to finding out what I loved about goad, so I'll put him in C. But it was exciting to see him in that set. Grismold. Grismold's a house and a half. Yeah, I built him kind of as a joke, just because I kind of like trolls, and giving people plants was kind of interesting. But he's very strong, very, very strong. If you run any of those enchantments that give tokens, like creature tokens get -1, or there's other variations of it too. So all those tokens die when you give your opponents. He gets big really quick, and can just start KOing people. And yeah, I've built him a couple times, and he's impressed me every time. And I think it surprises it surprised my play group. He's at least an A. He comes down really early, develops a board, even if you don't have a thing that kills tokens necessarily. But and it's funny too, like, your opponents don't always want to chump with the plants that you give them, because that means they're going to die quicker when he grows. So they're usually trading in one of their more valuable utility creatures to soak up some of the damage. But he just grows so fast, and if you're running tokens on your side, you can probably control how they're getting sacrificed or dying. And so, yeah, he's just really, really good. And there's probably even more tools for him nowadays that I haven't even looked at. So there's a good chance I revisit him at some point. Yeah, he's just really good, and I like how unassuming he is until you sit down and he starts gobbling up your plants and starts beating your face. Yeah, would recommend Grismold. Another troll, Gyome. Gyome's a really fun food commander. I've built him a couple times. You can go generic food synergies with him. You can go a more politic route by forcing food on your opponent's creatures and like tapping them. There's some fun directions you can take with him. I think if I wasn't running the Hobbit deck or had that in the current rotation, I would strongly consider rebuilding Gyome and having him as my food commander. And the flavor's just awesome too. My wife and I watch Master Chef, and so you see this card and you're like, oh, of course, this has got to be this has got to happen. So yeah, Troll Gordon Ramsay, he gets the job done and is a lot of fun. So I think he's also an A. Maybe I just like trolls in Commander, apparently. Ich-Tekik Savage Splicer, a partner. I got this deck for one of our Secret Santa years. My old roommate built me this deck. It was Ich-Tekik and Rebek, the mono white legend that cares about artifact mana value and provides protection of some sort. I'll pull her up once I rank Ich-Tekik, because she'll go where he goes. Yeah, it was Selesnya Golem's artifact synergy stuff, and it was cute. It did fun things. It was just never quite fast enough. Even after some rounds of upgrades, it could never. It had a hard time getting the engine online or drawing the right pieces. Yeah, I do like golems though. I liked running all the splicer creatures, and I think there's even some newer ones now, like the dark steel splicer, whatever one like makes the 3/3/3s and or maybe 2/3/3s and gives golems indestructible. I think that's really cool. There's probably other partners I'd be interested to try Ich-Tekik with. I saw him in like a Malcolm list, like him with like a treasure producer makes a lot of sense. So yeah, there's a possibility I revisit Ich-Tekik. I don't think I would do it with Rebek anytime soon, but yeah, I think I'm happy with B. Artifacts you have protection from each convert mana cost of artifacts you control, which is good. Yeah, more relevant than you would think, especially if you're running a variety of mana rocks and just some utility pieces. So put her at B with Ich-Tekik. So does she come in? She first came out with. Oh, she was in the first round of partners with the 4-color legends, like where Atraxa and Yidris, that cycle of them. And when I built her paired with Ludovic, who's an Izzet partner, and it was less about the ability. It was more that Ikra provides. It was more about just having access to the colors, which I think was one of the main criticisms of the having 4-color partners available. It just opens up the card pool too much. I ran it as a 4-color clone deck, which was kind of my first foray into dedicated clones. And this was inspired by a Command Zone episode where they had a guest on who ran a 4-color clone list, and I drew inspiration from that and built my own. And it was a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun effects you can do with 4 colors and copying things. And I remember playing Evil Twin and copying someone and then telling someone, no, it's fine, everything's cool, like nothing bad's gonna happen. Don't read the card, it's fine. And yeah, it did as advertised. I think I called the deck anything you can do, I can do better, and it did. You might have that one crazy creature, but if I can copy it 6 different times. And it was fun. I think I mainly took it apart because it was eating up a lot of my good mana fixing and lands, and I needed the lands for other projects. And I probably wasn't picking up the deck as often to justify how much resources it was taking from my collection. So I took it apart for other things, but I definitely revisited clones in other decks, and we'll see that further down the list. But Ikra, I would probably put in B for the clone idea mainly, and Ludwig's further down the list, but he was paired with another commander or another partner that I'll talk about and rank him accordingly. And Ikra as a creature is nice. That built-in life gain is nice. Can be good to bounce back in the mid game if you're getting a little low. So worth considering. Ilharg was definitely a Gruul creature in design, and then they probably changed it to mono red to like fit their ratios better for War of the Spark. He's big, he's splashy. The sneak attack thing is cool. I think when I built him, he performed as expected. You really want haste on him. I don't recall loving my games with him, but I don't recall having a bad time either, so probably put him at C. He's probably better in the 99. Good stats on him, and his effect's splashy. But, yeah, I think in practice, there's better sneak attack effects out there nowadays. Ich-Tekik, the Stormlord. I bought the Necron Precon when it came out. I like artifacts and graveyards, so melding the two in mono black, no less, sounded really interesting. And the deck's really cool. Another really strong precon. A little bit slow, but if you leave it alone, it'll definitely take over in the late game. Ich-Tekik was a little more exciting than Sazerac, the face commander, to me, so I built a list from scratch with him, setting up to abuse his first ability, making the 2/2 Necron warrior artifact creatures whenever artifacts leave your graveyard. And it was super easy to set up, get a Tortured Existence out there, and as long as you had an artifact in your graveyard, an artifact in your hand, that was 2 Necrons every black mana you spent. So you could just build a huge board very quickly. I got tired of going for the same lines after a couple games with it, and now we have someone in our play group that runs Ich-Tekik and basically doing the same thing I was doing. So I'm kind of tired of that line with him. I think there's some other cool things you could do with maybe even his second ability to give evasion of type and buff something, but yeah, the first ability is definitely what a lot of people gravitate towards. So I'll probably put him at B. He was good. Don't plan on revisiting him soon. I think there's other Necrons in that precon list that can helm up their own interesting deck, so I'd probably explore one of those options instead. Another Theros God. We got a good chunk of Theros Gods this batch. I think Iroas he's fine. The menace in the great command zone is nice, and obviously being able to attack without fear of your creatures dying is really good. Yeah, I think he's a good Boros aggressive commander if you want. Also good in the 99. Just sticks around on the battlefield, provides that value, and hard to get rid of. So, and if he turns on, or if you get enough devotion and he becomes a creature, then he's a big beefy body that can start doling out damage as well. I don't think he made a real impression on me when I built him. I'd probably put him at C. He's just what you would expect Boros to do. Ishai, I ran with Rayhan, which I think they both came in the same Atraxa precon as kind of the backup partners. They're very good together. I think Joey on EDH Recast has a Rayhan and Ishai list. Mine looked a little bit different from his, but it was in the same kind of spirit of just make a really big creature, and Ishai Ishai can grow, and if she dies, then you just move those counters to another big threat and just keep the pain train going. So yeah, four color counter stuff. It's fine. It was fun. I just don't gravitate toward +1 counter stuff as much nowadays, so I'd probably put her at B. I built Ishkana when she first came out, and the pool for spiders weren't super great. I don't know if they're still super great, but there's probably a few new ones with Lord of the Rings, like the Shelobs and stuff. I'd be interested in what she looked like today, helming her own deck. At the time, I don't recall having a fun time with her. She was really kind of clunky. It was kind of fun setting up Delirium, trying to hit those right ratios, but as a creature herself, if I built spiders, I'd probably build the new Golgari Shelob, so I think Ishkana goes a D. Zoni from the Return to Ravnica. Yeah, I liked Undergrowth as a mechanic. I actually have her built on Arena as a Brawl commander, and she's pretty good. The ability to have an insta board is really nice. She doesn't super excite me. She's just a good engine for if you're doing Golgari graveyard engine stuff. 6 mana for a 2/3 is a lot. But I'll probably put her at C. I think there's other exciting stuff I'd rather do in Golgari, and I don't recall keeping her built for super long. Jalira, I built Jalira just out of my own collection, just to try the polymorph thing. I probably didn't have enough pieces to do the deck justice at the time, but yeah, it interested me as a mono blue, a cool mono blue thing to do. I don't recall the deck working really at all. I don't know if I've given polymorph like a real fair shake, but I don't think I'm gonna. If I did polymorph, I don't think it would be Jalira. She just takes a lot to get going. Put her with D. Garad. When I built him, I think I just built him what you would expect. Fill up your graveyard, land a Lord of Extinction, something huge, and just drain everyone. He's able to come back. His ability to come back is nice. With his the last clause, sacrifice swamp in a forest, and yeah, he gets big. He's an outlet, fuels your graveyard strategies. I still like Gerard. I think I'd probably put him. I think he'd be a fun like nostalgic commander to like come back and explore from this cycle of aggressive color pips. It just reminds me of a fun era of Magic. I might put him at A just because I'd be interested to revisit him and see what new tools are out there for him. He might still play the same way. He's either an A or B, but I'm going to put him in A because I think I actively want to revisit him. Jazal was a backup commander for the Nahiri Precon back in that first mono color cycle of commanders. I recall building Jazal just to try him out. And yeah, if no one has removal and you can go wide with a few creatures, he will end games really quick. He's a good mono white weenies leader. Doesn't really excite me. I don't have a desire to play him again. I don't even know if I put him in the 99. Maybe he should go in the 99. But definitely a card you like want to play and then like have enough mana to activate his ability, which 9 is a lot for mono white sometimes. But I think I'll put him at D. Janara, I built Janara just as generic Bant 1/1 counter thing. She has a nice outlet to put 1/1 counters on her. You can build her as Voltron. She can kind of fit whatever angle you want to take with 1/1 counters. I don't think she brought anything new to the table. Probably put her at C. She's just there. Jingataxis. He's an F. I built him once. I knew the Praetors were strong. Built him once. I made it pretty cutthroat. I was a more spikier deck builder back when I first started playing Magic. Yeah, and it just wasn't fun. Just strips your command or opponent's hands and drowns you with all sorts of cards. So yeah, not the experience I'm looking for in Commander, and not something I want even in my decks. So F he goes. I built him as a commander for the original shrines from Kamigawa. This was before we got all the new crazy shrine support. Yeah, it was kind of supposed to be a janky deck. All the cards were like based around tutoring up one of the shrines and like getting them in play, and even just back then getting the 5 or so shrines online, it was fun. It was kind of a cool achievement to unlock, and yeah, I recall it doing well. I think I just built it as Enchantress support, and then I remember shifting to a more upgraded Enchantress 5-color build with like Omniscience in it and stuff, and it did what you expected it to do. Just big solitaire turns. As a Shrine Commander back in the day, I know we'll never get back to those original shrines, or just playing those original shrines, because Go Shintai's taken over everything. I would have probably put Joda as a B, but as he ended up with just the generic Enchantress stuff, I'll probably put him as a D. Not looking to revisit 5-color good stuff anytime soon. Yosu Ves, he's a good big black mana outlet. Gives you a lot of power if you can kick him. Yeah, he's a good game ender if you have the mana production online. I don't think when I built him it particularly excited me. I think I just wanted to try him out. The fact that he was Liliana's brother was interesting. So yeah, I think he's fine. I think he's a fun budget commander if you want to go that direction. Yeah, I'm pretty average on him as a whole. Good in the 99 of a zombie deck if you need a insta army. But all right, guys, we got through another chunk of Legends. We're coming along pretty good. Just the red commanders in S tier so far, and yeah, it's been interesting seeing where some of these land. I haven't thought about a few of these in quite some time, but yeah, more to come, so stick around and we'll see you next time.